And welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather. I'm your host Dan, aka smAsho, and tons of stuff to talk about today, like silver linings, how solar minimum is over, the current sheet, the heliospheric current sheet that is, and coronal plasma, and how they relate. First thing we're going to look at here is the colorized magnetogram. And you can see sunspot 2781 has stayed relatively stable over the past 24 hours. It's shrunk a little bit since yesterday, and there is quite a bit of field mixing happening in between those two sunspots, and there's a large plasma plume in between the Earth and the Sun right now. We'll show you some more views of that from different perspectives. But first, let's talk about the radio flux. The solar 10.7 centimeter radio flux now up to 94, and that is an indication that solar minimum is over. So we're ramping up back into a new solar cycle here, and as we approach solar maximum, it'll be interesting to see what's going on. By the way, we haven't seen radio flux levels of 94 since September of 2017, so the highest radio flux levels we've seen for over 3 years. Let's go to some HelioViewer movies. We've got one with the 304 angstroms, as well as the LASCO C2. Not a lot going on there. We'll let it play through, and then we'll show you some better views. And here's a close-up of sunspot 2781. You can see how stable that's been. Not a lot of change happening with those regions there. I do believe it shrunk a little bit since yesterday. Again, there's a lot of magnetic field in between these sunspots here, and that could lead to some solar flaring and so on. We did capture some solar flares here that you can see in the 304 angstroms view. And that's the UV emission spectra of ionized helium. As we cover heliophysics daily. And here's a crowd favorite, the 171 angstroms. Again, not a lot of changes happening to sunspot 2781, and sunspot 2780 has evaporated, so expect sunspot 2780 to lose its name today. Sunspot 2781 largely unchanged. Now today's Smash Lights segment will be a separate video. It will not be included in the Daily Space Weather, so make sure you check that out. There's also a playlist for our Smash Lights segments. It's youtube.com/smashamash/playlists. Again, that will air after today's Daily Space Weather video and be a separate video not included in the Daily Space Weather. And for all you new viewers, thanks for tuning in. The Smash Lights segment is the part where we talk about whatever we want, such as assisting mankind by advancing the study of predictive phenomenon in order to optimize value and reduce risk and liability, and save lives and resources, and adapt no matter what the adversity is. And before we continue with the Daily Space Weather, I'd like to thank our patrons, the true source of funding for our content. It's patreon.com/smashomash. And patrons, feel free to leave comments and let our other viewers know why it is that you decided to help to fund our operation. Leave us comments, let us know, let the viewers know. And if you've got any requests for other things, we'll be more than happy to consider that. Look for changes coming to our Patreon tiers by New Year's. Also, I would invite all of our viewers to check out smashamash.com. It's got links to all of our social media, and we're putting up more and more exclusive content on all those sites. Also, don't check out the smAsho forum and our 2 smAsho stores. What those are secrets. You've got to go to smashamash.com to figure it out. Today's featured product is the Mansa shirt, which, by the way, is nonpartisan, because making America suck again is not up to the government. It's up to you. So please do so. Mansa. Make America not suck again. And again, you can view links to all that stuff at smashomash.com. Also, follow us on social media such as Facebook, Facebook's alternativeminds.com, Instagram. Here's me doing show prep this morning, by the way. If you don't follow me on Instagram, you might not see exclusive content like this. And help us get to 500 subscribers if you are an Instagram user, as I get punchy and do show prep for the Daily Space Weather, thanks to our new followers over at Instagram. If you enjoy the content on YouTube, press like and subscribe over there, press the notification bell, visit our links, consider becoming a patron, etc. The alternative to YouTube is largely BitChute, and we get about 3 times as many views per day per video on BitChute as we do on YouTube. We're also on Twitter, lots of exclusive content there, and you can see some of my latest tweets here talking about no malarkey and so on. We're also on Gab, and I just put up exclusive content there this morning as well. Make sure you branch out into alt tech and help to fix the internet as big tech tries to break it. We also regularly stream live at twitch.tv/smashomash. Check us out there. Again, check our playlists out. youtube.com/smashomash/playlists. Now today we are going to do a cosmology segment. It's going to be included in the Daily Space Weather video because I consider heliophysics to be cosmology. I even consider geology to be cosmology because if you get to the chicken and the egg arguments, it could become an issue. So today we're going to cover cosmic rays. First we're going to look at the Apatity Neutron Monitor and the Barentsburg Neutron Monitor. There you have the past 30 days at Apatity, and it's quite flat here. And you see a ramp down over the past 3 days. Also at Barentsburg, we see a ramp up over the past week, flat over the past 3 days, and flat over the past 30 days. Next, we'll look at Athens, Greece. And by the way, don't take my word for it. Monitor these yourself if you like. Just look for links to cosmic ray data. You'll find this site, and it's got all of these convenient links for you. There's Athens Neutron Monitor, quite flat on the past 30 days. Next, here's the Mexico City Neutron Monitor. And you can see a slight downtick here since the month of November started. Flat over the past 30 days at Mexico City. Here's the Oulu, Finland Neutron Monitor. Flat over the past 30 days. And DOMC, flat over the past 30 and a downtick over the past 3 days. Again, don't take our word for it. Monitor them yourself. I like this site. It's got several convenient links that are all good to go. And I've written a new way to do cosmology segments here. I've decided to do something a little bit different. I'm using this quantum random number generator, a dice throw with a 1031-sided die. Why? Because I want a random number. So let's roll here. I'm going to press Get Numbers. There you go. 1020. One of the last entries at the Neil Gorell Swift Observatory. Why am I using 1031? Because there are 1031 objects. So we want to go to object 1020, which is PKS 2325 plus 093, a quasar FS, which I don't know what the FS stands for. Here are the X-ray outputs of that particular quasar, PKS 2325 plus 093. And you can see it's a pretty reliable X-ray source, although it has increased its range over the past 5 years. And if you've ever used the Neil Gorell Swift Bat X-ray Observatory, you can just click on Simbad if you want to get some visuals of these objects. I'm going to switch to Aladdin Light and go through a few different scenarios here. This is the optical band. If you zoom out, there's what's going on. It's quite distant, apparently. And by the way, we're going to do more segments about the Finkbeiner band because hydrogen alpha is sort of important. And here's another view of that quasar here. This is in optical once again from the SDSS-9. And I'll also show you the infrared band. Not a lot of infrared coming out of that quasar. And let's zoom out from the 2 mass to show you about where it's located with respect to the galaxy. And the galactic plane's way over there, so it's quite far off of the galactic plane. quasar, also known as B2325. Yes, here's a glimpse of it. And by the way, this is an interesting one too here, because the Swift Bat Flux is the 70-month X-ray survey average. So that's pretty interesting. So check it out. You can link to all that stuff this same way here. Go to the Neil Gorell Swift Bat X-ray Observatory, type in your favorite object, like, oh, I don't know, Sagittarius A star, or how about, let's see, what haven't we done for a while? We've done Gaminga, we've done Crab. I don't know, I'm just going to move on. But we're going to continue to do this in our cosmology segments. Look up a random object and perhaps learn something about it. And we actually did find an article here about this object, jet and accretion power in the most powerful Fermi blazar. So it's a very powerful Fermi blazar. And these are all objects which we're looking at from a specific perspective. If you want to read about that, just do a search for jet and accretion power in most powerful Fermi blazars, and you should find it. Don't forget to check out smashamash.com/forum. There's a whole cosmology forum there. Feel free to contribute. Thanks to everybody who signed up, all our registered users over there, now up to 1,670 users. Cheers. You are all invited to get involved, and we will not censor you as long as you're not putting anything that's not actually illegal up. One of the threads there is the most. And for instance, the most intense X-ray source, at least as far as stable ones, goes to the Crab Pulsar. Yes. And that's the end of today's cosmology segment. Let's get back to some space weather data. Don't worry about space climate. It's all about space weather. Next, checking out the real-time solar wind here to see a very steady solar wind density over the past 24, a small uptick over the past 12 hours, having reached a high of about 530 kilometers a second there. This coronal hole wind stream may be ramping down now. Slightly elevated solar wind velocity at 482 kilometers a second. Solar wind density currently about 8 protons per cubic centimeter. Otherwise, nothing exciting happening there in the real-time solar wind. KP index has been pegged at 1 for the past 12 hours. That's a measurement of global geomagnetism, by the way, for you new viewers. Here's another view. It's the heliosphere, it's the magnetosphere view. Courtesy University of Michigan Geospace Model V1.5. It's 4 hours of data showing magnetohydrodynamic pressure in Earth's magnetosphere. Nothing too extravagant going on there. Let's get closer to home and look at ground magnetic perturbations. Here are the ground magnetic perturbations over the globe. If you weren't aware, we've got 2 north poles right now during this polar excursion. The South Pole has crept into the southern Indian Ocean, and you can actually see about where that is there, somewhere southwest of Australia. We've got a North Pole over Siberia, a North Pole over Canada, the net pole near Iceland somewhere. And next, looking at the solar flaring, and we see another C-class flare happening as I make the video. Have you had your X-rays today? By the way, don't get solar flares and coronal mass ejections mixed up. We can have coronal mass ejections with 0 detectable solar flaring, and we can have solar flaring with 0 coronal mass ejections. Coronal mass ejections are primarily made of protons, and solar flares are X-rays, otherwise known as photons, high-intensity photons. And it's actually light when we're making the video for once. Pardon our lateness. Where will you be when Cygnus rises? Now, I like to orient my star chart to the south. It's available at in-the-sky.org. It's the all-sky chart. If you want to put in your location, you can find out what's going on above your head. And there's a slider that you can use here to see what's going to happen next. And it looks like Cygnus is going to start skimming across the horizon once again at 7:30 today. There's an important star in earthly cosmology, Deneb. I won't get into it. Watch our older videos and watch our future content by press and subscribe. No, that's okay. We'll wait. go ahead, press like, press subscribe, press share, share on all of your social media accounts, tell your favorite influencer about our channel, and about how we're able to do things like predict coronal mass ejections and all kinds of other solar stuff long before anybody else on Earth. How? Proprietary secret. Here's where stuff is in the solar system. There's where things will be in a week. And we've got a scary, spooky straight line forming between Uranus, Mars, Earth, and the Moon. Oh my God, it must be something to freak out about. And look at this. We've got another isosceles triangle here, an indication that Frito-Lay may be attempting to take over the universe, galaxy, solar system, plane of existence, timeline, etc. Approaching another new moon, my favorite phase. Let's get back to some more solar data. Here's the GOES magnetometer. And we've seen pretty high highs and pretty high lows in the past 24. Again, there's a huge plasma plume in between the Earth and the Sun. And here's where you can see it. You can see the way these field force lines are all jumbled up in that area. That is an indication that plasma is literally blocking the measurement of the solar magnetic fields. And that plasma out there could eject at any moment, and the Earth's field force line could suddenly snap into the North Pole current sheet, especially if that happens. And that could create some significant perturbations. I would actually say that there's an earthquake risk associated with this, because I've seen several earthquakes associated with coronal mass ejections, and it's not always evident in the solar wind. Next, looking at the line of sight field plot. This is the top view ecliptic plane field plot, and this is one of the most important models that we have to forecast solar activity. Line of sight field plot shows us the B field, and you can see these Yanks. No, I don't mean Americans or Northerners. I mean the B field being pulled down by the magnetism associated with that sunspot 2781, which is significant. I think it is the largest sunspot group so far of cycle 25. Next, looking at the coronal field plot. In other words, the potential field force lines of the solar corona, the sun's atmosphere. And keep in mind, this shows you open potential field force lines in black, closed potential field force lines in pink, and coronal hole field force lines in purple. Let's talk electrons. The Earth's got them. They're called the Van Allen belts. Please leave us a comment if you have a theory as to where they come from, how they're generated, how the Earth's geomagnetism is generated, as it is one of the greatest and most important mysteries in all of science, if you're concerned with things like basic survival, that is, and predictive phenomenon in order to adapt to any adversity. There's the one-year chart of the electron flux. Here's the forecast. We're expecting a slight uptick, which could put us back into warning levels. It's pretty close, according to the NOAA forecast. Here's the 3-day chart, and I would expect us to get back into warning levels here, which is 1,000 pulse flux units. Here's a visualization of the whole air column from the thermosphere down, and we see significant electron anomalies here over North America, northern Canada, the Himalayas, parts of the Middle East. Unexpected electron densities there over some of those areas. I'll let it play through a second time so you can see what I'm talking about. This is a good forecaster of GPS errors. And this is a reason, if you see one of these high electron density areas above where you are, to turn on your Wi-Fi accuracy for navigation purposes. Your GPS might not have the data for you. Next, looking at just one slice. This is just the ionosphere layer. Here's the latest image at 12:15 Universal Time. Not looking anywhere out of the ordinary there. And we saw a quake come in here as we did the show at Alaska, and then another one too, it looks like. What was that one? Oh, Puerto Rico. Peter Schiff, please leave us a comment if you're viewing the content. By the way, Peter Schiff would benefit by having our solar forecasting available. If you're friends with Peter Schiff, drop him a line. We'll do an interview with him and talk about nothing but economics and gold and the Fed and inflation and legal tender laws and all that sort of stuff. So let's go up the list here. We see some deep quakes, including at Alaska. Here's a larger one at Bolivia. It's a 4.7 magnitude and nearly 200 kilometers. There's one near Japan. Some Idaho quakes happening. Perhaps magmatic in nature. Deep quake at Afghanistan, over 230 kilometers on a 4.3 magnitude. Largest of the past 24 was this 6.0 at the South Shetland Islands. A very far south location for an earthquake to happen. Ooh, 4.5 a magnitude 4.5 off the coast of Michoacan, Maine. Michoacan. Deep quake here at the Philippines, 4.3. So a few deep quakes kicking off. Nothing over a 6 magnitude. I would say if you are in an earthquake-prone zone, please have a plan. Areas such as these. I'll draw them in. If you're in those regions, be prepared for a big earthquake. We're still having a 7, 8, and 9 earthquake drought. Earthquake droughts typically end in earthquakes. As far as we know, they always do. If you're in those areas, please plan to be an asset, not a liability. And it is very interesting to know that it's been essentially proven to about a 1 out of 100,000 chance that solar activity is directly related, that's proton density, directly related to earthquakes propagating. So if you're not aware of that, maybe we'll do a video about it at a later time. Next, looking at volcanoes here on volcanodiscovery.com to see what's been erupting. Kluchevskoy has been exploding, producing a 20,000-foot ash plume. Abiko, 12,000-foot ash plume there. Sakurajima, so a little uptick over yesterday. Sakurajima exploded. Unknown ash cloud, don't fly your hang glider over the caldera. Suwanosejima, flight level 060, 6,000 feet there. Semaru exploding, flight level 140, 14,000-foot ash plume there. Sangay exploding, 20,000-foot ash plume there. Revenador exploding, flight level 140. Sabancaya exploding, flight level 260. It's a 26,000-foot ash plume that you should not attempt to pole vault. Let's look at this tropical system down here. We do see some inputs on the jet stream level. And while we don't see a counterclockwise rotation, while we don't see a clockwise rotation, we don't see a clockwise rotation, but we do see a large kink in the jet stream here over that storm, an indication that it may intensify. Not good news for places like Florida. And here are the surface winds. They're not looking particularly strong right now. Let's see if I can get a reading. 26 miles an hour, that's nothing to write home about. 33 miles an hour. So I'm not even seeing anything approaching hurricane force winds here. Leave a comment if I'm incorrect. Here are the jet streams of the Western world. And we tilt that to the north because there are so few people living in the Southern Hemisphere. Cheers. And check out the extreme meridional jet stream flow. We got a weird trough right here, first of all. And second of all, look at these bends. These are some incredible bends in the jet stream. The jet stream has not flattened, no matter what anybody on the internet might tell you about it. Does that look like a flat jet stream to you folks? Next, looking at the eastern world's jets, and they're a little bit more coherent, especially in the north than the west. But the south has got some extreme bends also. Let's look at it from the geographic South Pole. And leave us a comment if you're enjoying your spring in the Southern Hemisphere. Shout out to solarminimum.net. Has anybody told you solar minimum's over? Next, looking at windy.com's pressure maps. Here's where we expect things to be according to the GFS forecast at 12 noon tomorrow. A double high pressure system, one directly over my head and one over northeastern, or I'll say eastern Canada. The Newfoundland region. And for you new viewers, if you're wondering where I'm located, it's in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. Just rocking it back and forth to show you where the pressure cells are expected to be on the GFS forecast. We have this low pressure system here rising up toward Canada. And let's move on. I would note on lightningmaps.org, Australia's had this interesting straight line of lightning strikes here over the past 12 hours. And still some lightning striking in those areas, as well as around Papua New Guinea, Indonesia, Malaysia. Let's zoom out. Eastern Mediterranean also having a lot of lightning, as well as the Caribbean lightning storm continuing for weeks. Also some lightning in the Gulf. Here's a close-up of that tropical system, and there's quite a lot of lightning, both on the trailing edge and right in the middle of it. Let's take a look at some more data. It's a U.S. Doppler radar map. Significant snowfall happening in western Nevada. Here's what's going on in the cloud layer. Let's take a close-up of western Cuba. Why click once when you can click twice? Well, that's not going to load. Let's move on to the water vapor map. And this probably will not load either. At least we'll be able to show you this view. And as I forecasted yesterday, this dry air has caused this system to make a turn to the northeast. And I would say that is a pretty uncertain path for that. Let's see here. I think it's going to tend to be toward the eastern side of the projected cone. Let's see if I can zoom in on this. And the answer is no. The site seems to be down. Which doesn't really bring us down here at the Smash News Network. It doesn't even make me enraged. By the way, thanks for joining the Smash team. Thanks for flying American Smashways. Please keep your head and arms inside the Smash plane at all times, as we've got bonus features. And those bonus features include the 193 angstroms 48-hour video, the intensitygram to show you what's going on with the sunspots as recently as we can possibly get it for you, the colorized magnetogram to show you the current magnetic environment. And those sunspots have shrunk a little bit since we did show prep, so that's sunspot 2781 is degrading a little bit, at least in the past hour. Hopefully that's a good enough update for you. Here's the 193 angstroms 48-hour SDO video. It's about that time for me to be out of here. Again, don't forget to tune into the Smash Lights segment. We'll be airing that right after the Daily Space Weather video. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Remember, stare at the sun. Stare at quasars and blazars. Yes, they're important. And they're getting more and more important as astronomy starts to look more like astrology. For real, I'm not even being sarcastic. Coronal hole forming in between former sunspot 2780 and sunspot 2781, which will have an interacting effect as it's blasting out a stream of protons. That coronal mass ejection that you saw there did not leave the corona. It splashed back down onto the chromosphere, most assuredly, as we didn't see any coronal mass ejection in the stereo AM imagery, although there was a bit of a lost data there. If you want to look that up, go to the Integrated Space Weather Analysis Center. See you next time. Thanks again for tuning in, and may that solar wind be at your back. Stop that. Stop that. And you clear off. Clear off. Stop it. Stop it. No. 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 You're made in China. You're made in China. China. Cheap Chinese plastic from China.